All right, it's our final segment this morning on MorningLine. Monday, Nick Barris here with Kent Seiler, MTSU professor, talking politics, presidential race, everything. It's heating up. It's getting more and more exciting. You know, everything that happened this weekend, and more to come. Let's take some more calls weighted through the break. We have some lines open if you want to jump on until we go till 9. Let's go next to Linda. Hi, Linda.
Good morning.
Morning.
I watched the debate this weekend, or part of it. As a 40-year teacher veteran in Tennessee, I look back at that debate as putting out fires with children who he called my mama names and she said it's about my mama and just on and on and on, and it's getting a little ridiculous with the butting in and not letting people finish what they're trying to say and being asked to let them finish, and they never really got to the meat of anything. It was just always back and forth, and to me in education it got worse and worse and worse, and that's just a type of bullying, and I just, it irritates me that they can't really stay on point, but of course that's my opinion. So y'all guys have a great day.
Hey, listen, thank you. I think probably a lot of people agree, whether you're Democrat or Republican watching it sure got nasty and heated, you know?
It did.
And too, I think as this finally does narrow down to finally one candidate from the Republican Party, because of this, I don't see any of these other Republicans endorsing. It's going to be hard for me to see whichever one of these individuals wins, the others at any point saying anything nice about them. They may say, oh, you know, I'm going to side with the Republican Party, and of course they still will. But I just cannot see, if Trump somehow wins or vice versa, Cruz or Bush, the others not saying anything nice about him after the fact. I just can't see it.
There'll be efforts to get everything back together, and Linda made some good points.
Are those bridges burned?
About the debate. Frank Lutz, who is a Republican pollster, you'll see him on Fox a lot.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he tweeted or blogged that was the most destructive debate he had ever watched on the Republican side. It is, and I have a lot of respect for this guy. I mean, he knows
so he's
the
seen
polls.
It. Yep.
And he said he had never watched a debate where there was more booing than applauding, which is says a lot
going
too.
after each other.
Yeah.
Certainly, none of these folks are going to be looking at the other. Whoever gets the nomination for VP, I don't see that happening. Like they're going to side. No, he'll be my VP candidate. Let's go to Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hey, appreciate y'all taking my call.
Sure.
You were saying earlier that Hillary Clinton pretty much got steamrolled in New Hampshire almost by a 2-to-1 margin, and I still question the Iowa caucus by the 6 coin flips that Hillary ended up winning and supposedly won Iowa. But I understand that that Hillary ended up with more delegates than Bernie Sanders did after the New Hampshire primary, and
that is crazy how that worked out.
The delegates and superdelegates can vote for who they want, no matter how the people vote and how the voting went. And I appreciate y'all taking my call, and I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That's an excellent point. I mean, coming out of New Hampshire, even though she got beat badly, did she get as many delegates as he did out of there?
I'm not sure what the total she got. A lot of people would argue she got more than she should, and Real Clear Politics has some, if you go to the website, has some pretty good breakdowns of the way this worked. Oddly enough, the Democrats and Republicans award delegates differently. The Democrats tend to be more proportional, and then you have 700 and something super delegates, and a lot of those are going to be very establishment type, probably Hillary Clinton leaning people. So there's obviously a lot of questions among the Sanders folks about how fair that is. The Republicans do proportional, and then they go into a winner-take-all number of states. So the rules kind of change as you move forward. So, right now with them it's mostly proportional, but they move into this winner-take-all phase that can really rack up a lot of delegates quickly.
Okay, so
after Super Tuesday.
Yeah, after Super Tuesday. So I was going to say, so we have the next primary is South Carolina. And then after that, did you say Las Vegas?
Nevada caucuses.
Nevada caucuses. And then, though, the real separation will come with Super Tuesday.
It will.
South Carolina will be more about, not so much the delegates you win there, but it'll be more about momentum.
It is. That's exactly right.
Okay.
So, yeah, you try to use like the Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada to an extent to narrow the field, which it has done.
Which it's doing, yeah.
Then you start really kind of the big delegate phase of people collecting delegates, and that's the Super Tuesday. That's why there will be some earnestness on the part of the Republican Party. If they're going to stop Trump, they got to do it real soon, or he's going to have a head of steam that no one's going to stop.
Any thoughts from you on what role come Super Tuesday Tennessee will play?
Tennessee's, I think, Tennessee is a fairly competitive state this time. I think on the, if you look at the MTSU poll, which is one of the few out there, Trump had a 2-1 lead over Cruz, and I think they're both 1-2, depending on, the margins could be different. And Clinton had a 3-1 lead on Sanders. I think Tennessee, I think that's probably a realistic expectation for where we are, depending on kind of what happens in South Carolina. An early vote has opened here.
That's right.
Yeah, but
I was interested. Early voting, and I know some people are doing it, but I mean, you realize that they could be voting now on someone who, come Super Tuesday, is no longer in the race.
Yeah,
That's interesting to me.
You've got to be really committed to the candidate, I think, to go vote early. You got to, I think a lot of people will keep their powder dry, wait for these other primaries and caucuses, and vote at the last minute.
Yeah, that makes sense. But again, Super Tuesday is March 1st. March 1st, and then from there, what's after Super Tuesdays?
We go to a whole series of different ones, and I looked at it last night.
But after Super Tuesday, you imagine, will we be down to, in the Republican race, just a couple candidates?
It's hard to say. The trouble is, you got Trump, Cruz, and then you've got
who's going to be number
the
three?
Other three. And who's going to be number three?
Which is the alternative establishment candidate to the two.
We could be to three candidates. I think Trump and Cruz are still going to be around and still be first and second. The question is who will there be an alternative by then, an obvious alternative?
And that's what you wonder when all of these others have fallen away and there's only 2 or 3 candidates left. Where the votes that were going to those others go?
Right.
And so if all of a sudden the establishment votes coalesce around whoever that number 3 is, that may be enough to make them a player to displace the other 2.
It could.
And that's something we could see happening. As far as, we talked like last summer about Trump being in the race, and it'll be interesting, but he'll fall away like he had in the past. And you could almost say the same thing to some degree about Bernie Sanders. I mean, would you say who's been more surprising, Trump or Sanders?
I think Trump is. Well, they've both been big surprises.
I mean, wow.
I think Trump has been the bigger surprise because if you looked at the race 4 years ago for Republican presidential nomination, you would have a candidate float to the top, and then the media would scrutinize and he would be knocked down. It's kind of Dr. Ben Carson followed that script this time.
Yes.
But Trump, and that's why all the other candidates expected that to happen, but it never happened.
Because he's been scrutinized, and for whatever reason, and he's made missteps along the way, as most candidates will. Anyway, it's the hardest job. I mean, think about it. Every single thing you say is scrutinized.
Right.
And everyone, we're all human, is going to say or make mistakes sometimes. Not that some of the things he said were mistakes, but they're just, a little bit sensational. But he's survived that to this point.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Trump's actions now have received scrutiny. What he says, what he does. His record really hasn't received scrutiny. Some of the Republican candidates are throwing up the, supporting partial birth abortion or supporting other liberal things that they say liberal that he's been doing. But to some extent, his actions have kept his record from being looked at in depth. It's more what he's doing now than what he's done in the past.
And that's another really good point, because when he finally, if he does become the nominee, is in that position, then it's just him, and the nation's media, just as they will with the Democratic candidate, will be focusing in on all of that.
Everything.
And then, if certain things had not been brought out and they are, then all of a sudden that's where both candidates could really, the scrutiny must be at that point just enormous.
Yeah.
And you better have a handle on how you're going to answer things that are going to come out one way or the other. And I imagine both candidates, obviously Hillary or Bernie, Donald Trump's probably he was in Hollywood, right?
And Sanders hasn't really gotten the level of scrutiny.
Not yet, right?
Yeah.
So all of that to come.
Yep.
Professor, as always, a pleasure. It's just interesting talking about this. And I hope you find it interesting because obviously this is going to affect us all.
Yeah, with some great calls.
Yeah,
too.
some great calls. People. So that's a sign people are paying attention.
Yeah.
It's good having you on. Hopefully
Thanks
we'll
for
see you
having me.
again sometime soon. Go teach those kids.
That's right.
Get them up to speed on politics and get the young vote out, right? Folks, thanks for joining us. Hang tight. We'll be back with more. I'll have a programming note right after this break.